Hello and welcome back to the Fans Phone in association with The Last Man Standing by loserpool.com. I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this show, we give you, the listeners, the opportunity to put your points out there. If you want to take part, it's simple. All you need to do is DM us on Twitter with your name and contact number, and we'll get you on the air live to have your say. The platform is yours. Have your say on anything Arsenal related. If you're watching us live on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button and utilize the live chat. We'll be more than happy to pick up your comments from there. If you're listening to this back later on, welcome. But don't forget to subscribe, share, etc. You all know the drill by now. Now, without further delay, let's dial up our first caller. Let's get him on the line. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner, James Rowe. How are you?
Good evening, Harry. How are you? Are you okay?
James, can you hear me?
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, can you hear me?
James, how are you?
I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
Bear with me, James. Go on. Go ahead, James. What do you want to say?
Well, one thing I wanted to say tonight, Harry, is I hope that all the players playing in the Europa League final and involved in the Europa League final against Chelsea realise the opportunity that they have. This is an opportunity for Arsenal to win their first European trophy in 25 years. This is our first European final appearance in 13 years. And it's a tremendous opportunity. And you would hate if we don't win the final for these players to look back at the end of their careers and think what might have been. You know, as I've stated, living here in Amsterdam and going back to London quite regularly this season, primarily for Europa League games as well. You know, this is an opportunity that we can't let it pass us by. You know, big clubs in world football have a standing, and big clubs also win in Europe. And we've got an opportunity to prove to European counterparts that we are a big club, that we can be taken seriously. And it would be nice to ascertain Champions League football having won a European competition this season before.
Fantastic. James, apologies. I had an issue with my headphones there initially, so I couldn't hear you at the very beginning, but it's now sorted. James, what do you make of the final being held in Baku?
Well, it's a strange decision, but as we spoke on Twitter the other day, Harry, well in advance, and really I think it really comes down to pot luck. I mean, I myself was in Lyon last year for the Europa League final, and Lyon is a wonderful city, you know, really great fun had from beginning to end. But it's a real tough ask for many fans who have been fans for many years to undergo such an ambitious trip when there's visa requirements involved, when there's multiple changeovers involved. And it's just a shame that such an occasion, which Arsenal fans would relish. I mean, you only have to look at the polar opposite of when we was in Paris in 2006. You know, it's as if that day was as if Paris turned into London because there were so many Arsenal fans.
But James, you said there is pot luck. But is it pot luck? UEFA have time to get this right, don't they? They have time to make sure that the city that they award the final to can handle it, that it's feasible for people to get to. The issues that we're hearing about Baku, surely UEFA should have done their homework and made sure that this city was fit for purpose. And I've got nothing against Azerbaijan as a nation or the city or the people or anything, but it's not fit for purpose for this final, is it? UEFA have to take some blame for that.
They certainly have to take responsibility for the decision they've made, Harry. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But if you look at the commercial elements of football in this day and age, it's as if everyone now gets a bite of the cherry. Everyone is involved in terms of staging potential events, new countries with new systems and that kind of thing. So I think the commercial element of where an occasion can come from and where countries come, whereas before you would think, you know, a country would never hold such an event. It just goes to show how quickly things can change in a commercial sense. And it is a shame that many Arsenal fans will not be able to attend. I mean, I'm even doubting that if Arsenal will sell their entire allocation of 6,000.
Well, we know we've seen lots of rumours today that only around about 2,000 have been sold so far. The tickets have gone down to silver members, red members. That tells you everything, doesn't it, about this? And I am one of those people who's able to get a ticket, but can I get to Baku? I don't know. Can I justify spending, in excess of £1,000 to go there for a day?
Yeah. I fully commend the honesty, Harry, of Arsenal fans that have admitted that. And I can fully understand the financial requirements myself. Obviously, every Arsenal game I attend involves a flight from Amsterdam and back again. So I can fully understand the financial constraints and the financial implications of such a choice. And I think Arsenal fans need to be commended for their honesty in that respect. But again, it's a personal decision as well. I mean, in my case, I made pre-plans for the morning to leave the morning after the final on a city trip that I'm going on, so I wouldn't have been able to attend the final. But that's why I put the effort in to attend the group games and the knockout games in order to be a part of the Europa League journey this season.
Absolutely. James, just before I let you go, Matteo Guendouzi, lots of talk about him getting a new deal. People's talking about his wages being doubled. They are just reports at the moment. Is it a little bit premature, though, in your opinion?
I believe it is premature, and Arsenal have to learn from their mistakes. I believe that Arsenal have to learn from their mistakes in terms of identifying players better, in terms of looking what they need, in terms of casting the net wide and going after players they need and offering sensible contracts in terms of wage and in terms of length. Also, we would do well to reinforce and reinvigorate our youth policy. Harry, as you know, I'm fortunate enough to interview professional players and managers, and I interviewed Sebastian Larsson not so long ago, who's now playing in his native Sweden for AAK Solna. And when he spoke about his time at Arsenal, in particularly the youth experience he had, he said the following to me: I couldn't have wished for a better footballing education in terms of the environment, in terms of the players, in terms of the structure. Now, you would hope that Arsenal would learn to kind of recreate that environment again for the next generation to flourish. And it's about finding youth players and giving them confidence and believing in them, and scouring Europe and other continents to find good players. Because if you look hard enough, you can find them.
Yeah, absolutely. James, thank you so much for joining us. Let our listeners know where you're calling from and how they can follow you on social media.
I'm calling from Amsterdam in the Netherlands.
Brilliant.
You can follow me on @JamesRowNL on Twitter.
Brilliant stuff. James, thank you so much. And we'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Indeed. Enjoy the final, Harry. Safe travels to Baku, and fingers crossed we will win our first European trophy in 25 years.
Thank you very much, mate. Fingers crossed. That was James Rowe from the Netherlands. While I line up our next caller, just a couple of comments coming through on the live chat from Sasid Wasami. He says, I think there's going to be lots of bargains to be had for Arsenal in the summer. I don't trust them, but Torreira, Guendouzi, Leno and Socrates for 65 million was good business. If we can do something similar with the 40 million, we can maybe, just maybe, buy Mane's Barber on a 2-year loan deal. I like that one, mate. Right, let's dial up our next caller. Here we go. Apologies for the breakup in sound quality at the beginning.
Welcome to the EE voicemail.
Andrew Armistead is going to be next on the line. Let's see if we can get through to him. He is awaiting the call.
Welcome to the EE voice.
We'll have to move on. Let's move on to our next guy. Bear with me a second. Comment coming through. Arsenal linked to Argentinian Walter Kahneman. Anyone rate him? That's from Carlito El Gooner on the live chat. Carlito, if I'm completely honest with you, I don't know anything about the player. I'm finding it really, really difficult to make judgments on players that, if I'm being honest, I've never watched, and that's the thing, isn't it? What can I say? Walter Kahneman, don't know a great deal about him. Let's get on to our next caller. Apologies, couldn't get through to the last one. If we dial you and we can't get through, we will just move on. Apologies, but we've got a lot of people that we need to get on the line. Bear with me. Here we go.
Welcome to the EE voicemail.
Okay, next one. Let's go. Let's keep going through the numbers. Harry, evening, mate. Get the game in pod. Let's get onto the caller first, and then we'll go back to that question. Thanks for that, mate.
Hello.
Mike Stavru, you're on the Chronicles of a Gooner, mate. How are you? Welcome to the show. What do you want to say?
I miss you, Harry. That's what I've got to say. It's been a long time for people that have been listening. They've heard my annoying voice and my annoying opinions.
You've disappeared.
You've
disappeared.
Yeah, I've fallen off the face of the earth. You know, it gets crazy towards the end of the season, so I'm looking forward to having a little break. But I'm going to miss the Arsenal. But yeah, Harry, I wanted to chat to you really about Baku, because I've been doing a lot of research into it recently, and just like the different ways to get there. You know, obviously no flights to Baku in the week of the final. You can only fly there on Saturday and then come back 3 days afterwards. If you want to drive, you can hit 60 hours with no stops. It's just basically outrageous to get there. You can go through a few war zones if you want, if that tickles your fancy. Me personally, no. But the fact that we were moaning about the 6,000 allocation for each set of fans, and the tickets are going to go on general sale because the season ticket holders don't want them. I mean, what does that say? I mean, it's just such a ridiculous decision by UEFA.
Makes us look a bit stupid, though, doesn't it? Complaining about the allocation. I know that the travel's a pain in the arse, and I am one of those people who's been complaining about it, and I probably am not going to go now, despite having a ticket, because of the travel. But we do look a bit stupid because we kicked up such a big fuss about the 6,000 allocation, and to my understanding, we've only sold about 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. But what routes were you looking at when you were looking to go? Were you going to have to take some outrageous route together?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of the journeys that were coming up were 22 hours of travel, stopping off in various places. It's just a joke, isn't it?
Yeah, and the official Arsenal travel, because I think they brought up some more routes. So direct flights is about £900 something, I think. But I think that's a day trip, so that's a bloody long way. But yeah, on that, I mean, it's great to get to European final. You know, it's fantastic. But if you can't get there, what's the point really? One other thing, Harry, I wanted to bring up is as well. Someone put to me earlier on an Arsenal group chat that I'm on, would you sell Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to distribute the funds to the rest of the squad? First of all, like, my initial reaction was no way. Like, we can't become that sort of club where we sell our top players. You know, we need to hold on to players like Aubameyang, who's really, Aubameyang, if we didn't have them this season, we'd be in big trouble with our defence. But I just wanted to ask what your opinion on that would be.
Oh, it's an interesting one because, you know, it's hard, isn't it? Because for years and years, we've been complaining about selling our best assets and then the club not reinvesting the money. If I was absolutely certain that the club would sell Aubameyang, get the money in and build the squad, I'd be like kind of okay with it. But I'm not convinced that that's going to happen. I'm not convinced that if we did sell him, all the money would go back into the playing squad. And that's a problem for me. Yeah,
that's a big problem. I mean, contract negotiations, obviously we were having a bit of not a heated debate, but, you know, we're good friends and we can get in, we can have debates and have different opinions, that's fine. But on Matteo Guendouzi,
let's do this now. Let's do this debate. Come on.
Debate. You said you didn't really want him, you didn't think it was worthwhile him getting a new contract. Well, I agree with you in the sense that has he deserved it? Probably not. I mean, in the sense of trying to protect an asset, I get it. I know that buyout clauses aren't legally binding in this country. In Spain they are, but in this country they're not. But I think when you whack a contract on a player like that, what they were trying to do is protect him. And I know that you said he doesn't have many years. Sorry, he's got quite a long time left on his contract. But I think regardless, you know, if you back him and you make that buyout clause higher, it just deters clubs. That's the angle that I was coming at it from.
I totally take on board what you're saying. And I do think that Matteo Guendouzi is a fantastic prospect and he's shown glimpses of becoming a really, really good player. And so you never want to lose those players. My issue with it is this, though. We're talking about a club who, for the last couple of transfer windows, we're being told have been restricted in the transfer market because of our wage bill, because our wage bill is top heavy. Now, in that instance where that is the case, we're going into a summer where, yes, we're going to lose a few players. Petr Cech's going to go. Danny Welbeck's going to go. You expect Lichtsteiner to go. And that takes quite a bit off your wage bill. But why tie down more of it when you don't need to? He's still got 3 years remaining on his contract. And there's no danger of losing Matteo Guendouzi. People say that it will fend off other clubs, but we don't need to sell him because he's under contract. And until it gets to the last 2 years, I would say, then that's when you need to look at it, I think. And, we've seen in the past, we don't want to let it go down to that 1 year, but 2 years is still plenty for me. And he's got 3. So that's where I don't understand it. I think at times this season, he's been average. I think at times he's been very good, but I think particularly in the second half of the season, he wasn't very good, if I'm being honest. What did you make of the second half of his season?
Yeah, I mean, that was the point. And actually, someone brought it up to you, which I didn't think of before. If you use the same guidelines on a player like Lucas Torreira, who's become a bit of a cult hero for his performances. He scored the goal against Spurs in the 4-2 victory. I think that kind of papered over some cracks in the second half of the season. So if you're saying that about Guendouzi, I mean, Torreira also didn't have a great second half of the season. Hardly played, was dropped by Emery in favour of other players. Even sometimes Mohamed El Neni when Torreira was on the bench, which for me is crazy. But he's only just turned 20, but for the majority of the season he was 19. He was brought in for a pittance. I don't think he would have expected to play anywhere near them games. I don't think any of us fans would have. I don't really think it's his fault, and I think it makes sense why he burnt out a little bit. And yeah, I mean, he has been average at times, but at other times he's been really good and positive. One of the few players at the club from midfield that can drive the ball forward. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I think he's a promising talent, but I think he should be played as that, a promising talent. One thing though, Harry, I'm worried about looking ahead to the summer. Is this budget, which is sort of nonsense in the sense that the club would never reveal how much they actually have to spend, because that would just force teams to drive the prices up. So I'm not believing any of the reports. I mean, it obviously will be less if we don't get in the Champions League, but where can you see us really strengthening, and how many players can you see going out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It'll be difficult to say. It's impossible to say with Arsenal. You never know what's going to happen. I can't tell you who I think will come in, and I can't tell you who I think will go out, because it's just so unpredictable. I guess the outgoings are dependent on the players that we bring in, and vice versa. And so it's very difficult to predict. Mike, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to get on to our next caller and speak to you again soon. That was Mike. Let's get on to our next caller. Let's dial him up. Here we go. Getting through your calls this evening on the Chronicles of a Gooner, the fans.
Hello there.
Hi, Andrew, joining me on the line. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Apologies about before.
No worries at all. Welcome to the show, mate. You're on the Chronicles of a Gooner. You're live. What do you want to say?
I'm just want to have a bit of a recap really on the season, and say that it's probably one of the only sort of seasons for quite a long time where I've had so many mixed feelings about how it's gone. I mean, if it hadn't been for reaching the final, I think it'd be extremely disappointing. And towards the end of the season, when we had the incredible collapse, when we had third place in our hands, I didn't know what to think really about the manager. I was having very, very sort of second thoughts about him and whether I trust him with regards to going forward. But as I say, reaching the final of the Europa League has put things on hold really for me. The jury's out for me really with regards to the season, because I don't think people on Twitter have been going on about that we really need to have a reality check and we're a top 6 team.
Yeah.
And just this season has shown that we shouldn't have been a top 6 team. We shouldn't have finished 5th.
Absolutely.
We should have easily finished 3rd. It was in our hands, and just one win out of those last 5 or 6 matches, as it turned out, would have put us above Spurs at least. And then 2 wins out, which we should have had. As Crystal Palace was the one for me really.
Yeah.
That's where the season should have been. It should have been done then. We should have received.
I totally agree with you, mate. I totally agree with you. And, going back to your point where you say that people say, oh, we need a reality check, we're a top 6 side. The fact is that you can start the season with one objective, but you can adjust your objectives throughout the season.
Yeah.
And given the position we were in, our objective was to finish in the top 4. We were absolutely in the driving seat, and we blew it. Now, if Unai Emery does go on and win the Europa League, he's done his job as far as I'm concerned, because he's got us back in the Champions League.
Yeah,
that is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And I totally agree. I think we were very much on the same wavelength as far as that's concerned, because I totally understand people when they say, well, if you had at the start of the season, if you were offered the Europa League final and finishing 5th, 1 point behind Spurs, most people say, yeah, that's okay, that's a fairly decent season. But events changed those expectations, and the way things were going, and with all the people that are around us, that Spurs, Chelsea, Man United, just basically having a horrendous end to the season as well. We should have, just with that one match at Crystal Palace, for example, that should have put us well above everyone else, and we should have been quite a few points clear, to be fair, let's be honest, of everyone else in 3rd. But I think with regards to the Europa League final, I fancy our chances against Chelsea, but I was listening to another podcast as well earlier on today. I think it's the Arsenal Vision one, and it was very interesting what Elliot said on that as well, with regards to sliding doors moments for the season, because you just imagine what it could have, the repercussions could be over the next few years if the worst possible outcome was to happen, and we were to lose our final and Spurs went on to win theirs. What it could do to both the teams and moving forward.
Yeah,
it don't really bear thinking about, to be honest, is it? Because could we realistically say that North London is red after that for a while at least? It could put us back by quite a substantial amount of years in the plan that we've got to move forward.
It could. Andrew, what do you make of the Baku thing? It's a huge debate this week. We've spoken about it already on the show this evening. I want to get everybody's thoughts on this, because for me, this is a real serious subject. What do you make of UEFA's decision to hold a Europa League final in Baku, a million miles away from here?
I think it's quite simple, really. I mean, with regards to Baku, the decision was made 2 years ago, so that it's been known for quite a long time, so that's fair enough. However, they should always have some kind of plan B for situations like this, when you've got 2 teams from London travelling, was it 2,500 miles?
Yep, something like that.
In some cases, I've read in some cases it can take a day and a half to get there, depending on what route you take as well, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that, why was it chosen in the first place, though? 2 years ago, or not 2 years ago, when the airspace and the transportation links to get to the ground apparently can only withstand 12,000 fans, according to UEFA, as what their statement they put out the other day. Why on earth was it chosen as a final venue anyway? Because yes, all these countries have got the right to hold these tournaments, but not when you can't get there. A maximum of 12,000 fans can get there. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yes, I can understand they have to choose these venues so far in advance, but surely they must be able to have a few other stadiums on standby around Europe in case something happens. I mean, what if there was a civil unrest around the area or something, and they had to change it last minute as well? I mean, they must have some kind of.
There must be some sort of contingency, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a couple more points as well, if I may.
Go ahead.
With regards to like the losses we've got this year, regards to players going out, and obviously with some big names, some big personalities that are lost from the dressing room, in Cech and Welbeck and Ramsey, the most high-profile ones. But I think the biggest loss to the season, personnel-wise, has got to be Sven Mislintat, who, I mean, I would feel a lot more comfortable about deals that we're going to be doing in the summer if he was still there. I don't know. I mean, regards my thoughts about Emery going forward, I say I have put all that on hold because of the final, but I don't know still whether I've got any kind of faith in him to bring the right kind of personality into the dressing room. It's all very well going after these players from abroad. I mean, I can't remember the guy's name. You spoke about him earlier. The defender we're looking at from Argentina.
From Argentina,
never
Walter
heard of him, so-
Kahneman.
Yeah, I mean, have you heard of him before?
No,
2
I'll be
hours
honest,
ago?
I haven't. I'll be honest, I haven't.
No,
And
exactly.
it's really
I
difficult
just-
when people ask me about these players because
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of him before either. And you know, why? It just frustrates me when there's so many good players, Premier League ready, that are, you know, in teams that are sort of below the top 6 or below, or even top championship quality players. I think we're just sort of too snobbish about bringing this type of player in. And I think there's so many players on our doorstep that we could bring in, who we could put immediately into the first team, hit the ground running. And yes, you may pay, you know, £2 or £3 million more, or whatever it may be, for players like that. But I think there's so many good players that we could actually go for. I mean, let's be fair. We could have like half of the Leicester team, half of the Wolves team, walk straight into our team, if we're honest right now.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I mean, they wouldn't let all these players go, of course. But you know, if we would just went all out to get someone like a Ben Chilwell at left back, we got Wan-Bissaka at right back. I'm really not into Zaha. That sort of prices that were being quoted on Twitter at the moment. I don't think that's really overpriced.
Yeah, it is.
But there's other players like James Maddison and Yuri Tielemans who've been playing for Leicester. I think they're absolutely fantastic players that I'd go for above Zaha just because of the age as well. But the way that they've performed this year, it's been fantastic. I mean, I know that Tielemans only came in January. I think last time I looked, I think he had about 12 appearances this season, but he looks like the real deal. And, you know, there's so many other options rather than going for these, always thinking that we have to go abroad and bring players in. But it's just more of a risk than if you do buy someone from the Premier League. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I totally agree. I think the reason they do it, though, is because the inflated transfer fees when buying between Premier League clubs. I think that's a real problem. And I think that's what puts Arsenal in particular off of doing deals like that. But I totally take your points. I think there's some great points there. Andrew, thank you very much. And we hope to speak to you again very soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Right, bye-bye.
All right, that was Andrew on the line. Apologies, Andrew. I cut you off a little bit suddenly there. Sorry. Got a little bit trigger happy with the button. Thank you to all of you who are watching us live right now on YouTube. Guys, please hit the like button. There's much more of you watching than there is likes at the moment. So if you could, please hit that like button. We really, really appreciate it. Comment from the Game In Pod on YouTube. He says, Harry, evening, mate. What are your thoughts about the club's statement regarding UEFA's decision to host the final in Baku? They didn't seem to mention Mickey. Do you think he'll be going to Baku? Hi, mate. Thanks for your question. In terms of the club statement, I think it was absolutely the right thing to do. And I was proud to see Arsenal questioning UEFA and asking what the criteria was when selecting the city that they have, because it absolutely makes no sense to me. In terms of Mkhitaryan, they didn't mention it. You're absolutely right. However, I've seen an interview earlier on Sky Sports where I think it was the sports minister of Azerbaijan made the point of saying that Mkhitaryan would be granted his visa. He said that sport and politics have no relation, and so they will be making sure that Mkhitaryan is safe and assisting him in getting his visa. Make of that what we will. I still think it's out of order that there's even a question being asked about that. Question from Russ Morgan on the chat: would you sell Laka to Barca if all the money we get from him was used? It's so difficult, isn't it? Because I'm not convinced that the money would be used. It's really, really difficult. I'll try and keep Lacazette and Aubameyang. I think they're crucial to us building. Right, let's get on to our next caller. Let's dial him up. God, these rings take an age. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner, mate. Introduce yourself.
My name is Drew.
How you doing, Drew? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Good, good. Drew, where are we dialing you from?
I'm in New York City.
Brilliant, fantastic. From across the pond, Drew, what do you want to say on tonight's show? We've been talking Baku, we've been talking Guendouzi, we've been talking Mkhitaryan, we've been talking transfers. What do you want to say?
I was wondering what your thoughts about the setup. A lot of people are talking about people we're bringing in the summer potentially. There's links with Adrian Rabiot, questions about what we're going to do with Guendouzi. Do we need a new left back? All these sorts of questions, but no one's talking about potentially the young players we're going to want to bring in. You have Reece Nelson coming back from his loan. You have Bukayo Saka, who people are high on the club. Willock showed that he could maybe step into Ramsey's role without just having to go into the market for it. So where do you stand on it?
In terms of the setup, it's really difficult to say. I think I've made this point on some of the podcasts this season. When people talk about waiting for certain young players to develop, I think that's absolutely the right way to go if you're looking at the long-term future. But the problem you have when you do that is, for example, Unai Emery came in on a 3-year deal with the option for it to be terminated after 2. Now, the reality is, does Unai Emery have time to hope that a Reece Nelson or a Bukayo Saka or an Emile Smith-Rowe come good? Or does he need to act now and get players in that he knows can do the job? Because football is a very short-term game now. I don't know what you think on that. I just think that managers are under so much pressure that it's often risky to wait and hope that a youngster will come through.
Well, it's interesting because Arsene Wenger talked about that himself, didn't he? He said young players cost you points. And that's why sometimes, especially in the Premier League, it can burn you. And while I do think we're in the midst of right now a really good crop of young players, and a lot of these kids would get into a lot of the sides in the Premier League for sure, and certainly in the Championship. So you have to talk about maybe loaning some potentially, but the question is, do we worry so much about the short-term game, about maybe trying to quickly get back into regular 3rd and 4th place finishes, maybe even trying to challenge for 1 year? Or do we try to think about playing the long game now and really utilize the fact that our youth setup is actually on the road to where we need it to be? For me, I think that's the debate completely. And it's difficult because people, I talked a lot about today about, the possibility of, say, in a different world, we sell Aubameyang this summer for whatever it was, 80 million people were talking about. How would we reinvest that money? Yeah. Would we go and try to get ready-made players who are like Wilfried Zaha, for example? Or would we go in and try to get younger players who, like Torreira, come with massive upside potential but aren't at their peak yet? And do we hope in a year or two they hit that peak with us, or do we get players who are already at their peak? Do we have that kind of time? It's a difficult question we're in because we're not ready to challenge yet. And really, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not going to be ready to challenge it in the next 2 or 3 years. So should we take this time period now to be honest and say, listen, we're not getting a proper title challenge. We're not going to get better than 4th. We're not going to finish lower than 6th. Do we really try to really come up with a better core where we failed with the British core? Maybe we're successful with this one with a younger core of players that we currently have at the club now. It's difficult to really hammer down an answer because we're in a really tough spot as a club.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult, isn't it? It's really difficult to find the balance. Of course, missing out on the Champions League, though, is having a financial impact on this club. And with Stan Kroenke taking full control, we know that he's not going to put any money in. He's going to literally go with what we're earning. Drew, you've got lots of fans in the chat, lots of people talking about you, telling you that you're the king of German football knowledge. So tell us about Ibrahima Konate, because he's someone that we've been linked with in the last few days, isn't he?
So Konate, I don't, as much as I would absolutely love to have him at the club, I just don't see it happening. RBL are at a position now where you have Julian Nagelsmann coming in next season. He plays a back 3 often at Hoffenheim. It's something he might bring regularly into Leipzig. We're not sure yet, obviously. But at the club right now, he has Upamecano, Konate, and Willi Orban all at the club. And those are 3 very, very good center backs he can build long-term with. And even Orban, who was arguably one of the better center backs in all of Germany this past season, he's not even in his prime playing years yet. So I can't see the club wanting to really move one of them on, even though they could obviously reinvest. They're not afraid to spend. They're not afraid to take chances on young players. That's kind of what they're building their brand on right now. But a player like Konate, honestly, I feel like he's better served staying there a couple of years, and then when he's ready to move on, he's going to go straight to the top. I think he is that good. And I don't think we can afford him now, let alone in another couple of years. I think currently looking at a player who would be potentially more expensive than Umtiti, because Umtiti is apparently being shopped, but Konate isn't on the list. They want to keep him. I don't see why they'd want to sell him. You'd be looking at a 50, 60 million pound center back, and he's not even 20 years old yet.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about he's shown promise, but he needs more seasoning. I think it's that simple when you look at it. And I rate him, but I don't think he'd be ready for the jump. But I think when he is ready for the jump, I think he's going to go to a level that we're not even at currently.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, isn't it? How Arsenal fans have got this thing about plucking out names from Europe that in truth we don't really know a great deal about, and saying, yeah, this is absolutely the right player to bring in. And I love talking to people who have knowledge of the other leagues, because for me, people are very quick to say, yeah, this guy's the answer. But in actual fact, have they watched them play? Have they seen anything more than a 5-minute YouTube highlight reel? And that's kind of my issue with a lot of this transfer speculation. Drew, thank you so much for joining us. Got to get through to another call, but thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. And we'll have you on again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, bud.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
That was Drew calling from New York City. Big thanks to Drew, and a thank you to every single one of you that's watching live. I know I keep saying it, but the numbers are absolutely brilliant. So guys, again, there are lots of you watching. Hit that like button on YouTube. It's so important. And I apologize for the problems at the beginning of the show with a little bit of the sound. This is live. That's going to happen, unfortunately. I can't do a great deal about it. I don't have a producer here. I'm doing it all by myself. So I'm trying to juggle the conversation and, of course, the phones. Right. Bear with me. Let me get on to our next caller. Keep your questions coming in the chat as well. Let's have a look. Let's go on to our list. Don't forget to hit like, people. Don't forget to share as well. Right, let's get on to our next caller. It feels like an age when you're ringing these numbers, doesn't it?
Good evening.
Good evening, Melvin. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner, mate. You're live on air. What would you like to say?
Well, just I think we've spoken about our manager a lot this evening yet.
Not too much, actually. Not a great deal. I'm surprised.
Right. I'll tell you where I am at the moment. I'm split down the middle. He's like a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde to me. At times I'm thinking it's fantastic. We've got a manager with this passion on the touchline. I love to see that. Sometimes, especially at home, he seems to pick the right way to play. We get at the team fast. Other times I'm scratching my head with the team he picks. A bit like the last days of the Wenger, when we used to scratch our head, why is he playing that player when so and so is available? I think he's going to get it right. We've got to give him time, and I think this is the biggest transfer window we're going to see for a long time now. Not only who he buys, but very importantly, who he sells. Because if he doesn't sell some of the poor ones, you know as well as I do, at some stage they're put on a shirt again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the worry.
Absolutely. Melvin, what have you made of the season overall then? Do you agree with me that we should have finished in the top 4? And, you know, I can't take people sitting there going, oh, we're a top 6 side. The fact is, it opened up for us and we failed, didn't we?
Well, it wasn't just one game, was it, Harry? I mean, we were given 4 bites of the cherry and couldn't take one.
Right. That's right.
That is so disappointing. I mean, you know, to lose is a mistake. To do it 3 or 4 times, it's not a mistake, is it? There's something deeper than that, and that's the worrying thing.
What have you made of the Europa League final and the fact that it's being held in Baku? We've spoken about that a lot tonight. I don't think anybody has said that it was a good idea hosting it there. And I want to just reiterate the point again. I've got no issue with Azerbaijan as a country. I've got no issue with Baku as a city or the people or anything like that. It's just not fan friendly, is it? Making people go all that way. We weren't going to ever get 2 teams from Azerbaijan in the final, were we? So at some point you got to think about this sensibly, think about the journey and the cost. The cost is crazy. Melvin, your thoughts on that?
Thoughts on that? Right, a couple of things. First of all, is it actually in Europe, Azerbaijan? I don't think it is. It's Asia, isn't it?
It's up for debate, isn't it? It's up for debate.
That's number one. All right, that's up for the debate. Today, so that's not clear.
Someone said to me today, sorry, Melvin. Someone said to me today, but they're in the Eurovision. And I said, but so are Australia. What's that got to do
exactly.
with it? Carry on, sorry.
But I mean, let's face it. We know why it's done in these countries. It's very political now, football. And it's, you know, you said to me a few years ago, we're going to have the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the same way. That's not friendly. It's not football friendly, let alone fan friendly. I mean, it's in 100 degrees they got to play in the winter. So that's not thought of. And I think one of the American football, I think, American football, they can change it, a venue, within 24 hours or something, someone said the other day, because they have the playoffs very well just before the final. So why we couldn't do it to another country? It's madness. It's not fair. It's not right. And you know as well as I do, if there wouldn't have been any television rights, it would have been done in Europe, closer to home.
Absolutely. I mean, we were all complaining. We were talking about this earlier. We were all complaining about the 6,000 ticket allocation, but it appears that we've only sold around about 2,000 tickets so far. And, you know, I'm someone who's got a ticket, probably won't be able to get out there. It's absolutely crazy, isn't it?
Same here. I bought tickets. My son's going. Actually, he managed to get a flight, but I can't pay what they're asking. It's ridiculous money. It's absolutely ridiculous. Take time off, take 3 or 4 days off work, plus the cost. But, you know, it's just not on for me. And I feel sorry for the fans that go to all the away games. I only go to the home games. I feel sorry for the fans that go home and away, that they just can't do it. And it's very sad. So I know that we've complained we only got 6,000, but I think a lot will come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Melvin, just finally, your thoughts on Matteo Guendouzi. There's been reports doing the rounds this week that Arsenal are set to double his wages and offer him a contract extension. Now, I put out a video yesterday where I said that I felt it was a little bit premature. He's still got 3 years on his current deal. What is the rush, considering we are a club who keep getting told that we don't have the money to pay out on wages? So why would you give more to a player that we don't need to up his contract? It makes no sense to me, and I feel like it's premature. I've taken a shitload of abuse for this. Your thoughts?
I back you 100%. I think it's ridiculous. I think the younger the player is, the more you tie them in with higher wages. Sometimes it works in reverse and they take their foot off the pedal. They may not mean to do it, but that's the worry we've got. I mean, when you've got clubs like when under Ferguson, for example, Man United, he never did that until the last minute, because he knew those players had to fight for the jersey and wanted it. Once you start putting these players on double, treble, whatever you like, contracts, then all of a sudden it's like, well, I've made it now. They might not think that, but in the back of their mind, they've made it, and that's it. And all of a sudden, perhaps the ones where they've got to win the tackle, they just don't win it like they should.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Question that's coming from Mike Stavru on the chat. Mike joined us earlier on the call. He's asked, what players would you ship out this summer? Melvin, quick fire list of who you'd kick out of the door.
Right, this is going to be a bit controversial, but apart from the obvious ones, Xhaka I would definitely get rid of.
Okay.
I'd get rid of Mustafi.
Yep.
You know, I think that they've been a great term. Monreal's got to go. I would even get rid of, this is going to be a real hard one, Kolasinac.
Okay.
I don't think he's quite up to it. He's fantastic going forward, but he's not a winger. And when he has to defend, he can't, and he makes bad mistakes. Up front, you can't touch him. They're brilliant. Iwobi's a squad player, but just leave him as a squad player. Mkhitaryan hasn't cut the mustard for me, and he's had plenty of chances.
Yep.
I think that's about it. Yeah, the rest I think we're okay with.
Just finally, before I let you go, your thoughts on Mesut Ozil. We haven't spoken about him tonight.
We haven't. Well, he's a luxury player. Had he been in our invincible team, he would have been brilliant. But he's one of those players that needs 10 great players, 10 very good players around him, and you'll get the best out of him. We haven't. And that's why we don't get the best out of him. He's in the wrong team. And also, very quickly, I think the style we play doesn't suit him either. Tip-tap is no good for him. He's brilliant when the ball comes from deep and we run at teams and we stretch the teams like he did for Real Madrid, when he could run with the ball and stretch it. When he's playing, he's got 10 defenders in front of him. He's got to try these little touches, which sometimes doesn't come off. It's not always his fault. He gets frustrated and it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
He's good to a team. Like, he'd have been good at a team like, I know he's too good for some might say, but someone like Leicester, which used to, like the 2 seasons ago, used to play very quick break football. He'd have been in a style of football like that. That would have suited him.
Absolutely. Don't disagree with you. Melvin, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we hope to have you on again in the very near future.
Thanks, Harry. Keep well. All the best.
Cheers, mate. That was Melvin Marks. Let's move on to our next caller. Bear with me a moment. Guys, keep your comments coming in the chat. Keep the likes coming. If you're listening on the audio afterwards on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever, apologies. I keep talking about YouTube, but we are live on YouTube. That's why. Right, let me get over to our next caller. God, I need to get faster at doing this, don't I? Here we go. Let's have a look. Here we go. Let's hit the call button now. That Skype ringtone is much more funky. Glenn,
hey,
welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner, mate. You're live. What do you want to say?
well, first of all, I'm not touching that can of worms you just opened with Ozil. No one's changing their mind on that. I want to touch on Baku real quick, Azerbaijan. They're one of the people need to put aside the outrage, the justifiable outrage about it, and realize that they supply 1/5 of the world's oil supply. And I'm sure some money went under the table for a country that is not ready for a football final. And you don't have to answer that because you're trying to get there. But I just had to say that, and no one else is saying it.
You're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right. That is what it's about, isn't it? Sadly, that is what it's about. Your thoughts on Unai Emery's season so far? And first of all, sorry, Glenn, I forgot to say, where are you calling us from? Or where are we calling you from?
I'm calling you from New York. So that's 2 New Yorkers in a row there. So you're probably going to lose all your UK listeners.
I need to practice my New York accent, I think.
All right, you
go for it.
The manager, too early. He needs another season. So I don't even want to comment on that. I would like to say that you are 100% right about Guendouzi. On a perfect Arsenal squad, he would be a squad player getting some time and getting his mistakes out, in lesser games. But it's too early to give him all that money. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it just seems a little bit premature. I'm not saying that I don't want Matteo Guendouzi at Arsenal. I'm not saying that he won't develop. I just feel like right now that shouldn't be our priority. And I know, look, it is just reports at the minute. There's no point in having an absolute meltdown about it because we don't know for sure. But it just feels like for a club who are consistently telling us, oh, guess what, guys? We're restricted in the transfer market because our wage bill is too high. Yet we're about to give someone a pay rise when we don't need to. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you there. I wanted to touch on one other thing that makes me bananas because so many people I respect are really hot for Zaha coming to Arsenal. And to me, he is a diver. In other words, he cheats. There's no doubt the ability is tremendous that he has. I'm not diminishing that. But, I mean, back when the crossbow was invented, England didn't even want to use it because there was no honor in that. And I don't think there's any honor in winning games by cheating. And I'd rather have them go for somebody else besides Zaha. Plus, his price tag is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Harry. Could you just weigh in on Zaha diving? Would you be happy, except for that Tottenham game where Aubameyang missed the penalty? Would you be happy winning games with Zaha diving?
No, because you don't want to advocate diving. You never it's a horrible thing. You don't want to say yes. I want to see my players do that or anything along those lines.
No honor.
Yeah, exactly. There's no honor. But aside from the whole diving thing, it's not even that with Zaha for me. Zaha strikes me as the type of player who is good at being the big fish in a small pond. Asking him to move to a club like Arsenal, he went to Manchester United earlier on in his career. I know he was a lot younger then, but it didn't work out, did it? And my fear is that we'd have the same problem. I think when you look at the money that Crystal Palace are asking for him, and I think, as I said earlier, there seems to be this inflation when Premier League clubs are buying from each other. But it just feels like the money we would pay for him, we could go and get another option that would be just as effective, perhaps from abroad, without paying that Premier League premium. And for me, that is a real problem, particularly when you're talking about a club who are always going on about how, we can't compete.
No, I completely agree with you. Maybe Goretzka on Bayern. I mean, maybe they feel guilty that they got Gnabry. I know he didn't go directly from us there, but maybe they'll feel bad that they have Goretzka, Kai Havertz. How the fuck do you say his name? I don't know. Leon Bailey. I like those guys. If we don't want to go inside the Premier League, what do you think of those guys?
Again, I like the sound of them. I like what I've seen of them, but do I know enough about them to make a call on that? Probably not. I'll be lying if I said I watched much of the German league, to be honest. We've lost Glenn there. Sorry. Let's get him back. My bad. Let's get him back. Sorry, Glenn, we lost you there for a moment. My bad.
No, I'm back. I don't know if it was me.
It was me, mate. It was me. I was trying to do something else at the same time. This is the problem when you do things live and you're trying to do it all by yourself. I hit the wrong button, so apologies for that.
No, it's okay. I thought it was one of my hideous kids that did something.
But no, in terms of those players that you've asked me about, if I'm being completely honest, mate, I don't know enough about them to say, yeah, they'd be the right answer or they wouldn't be. A lovely comment coming in from Danny, the GFP, from the Burkamp Wonderland podcast. If you don't listen to that, do check it out. It's a fantastic show.
It is a fantastic show. I've listened to it.
It is. It's brilliant. And Danny says, Matteo will only spend it all on Pokemon cards anyway, talking about the proposed Guendouzi contract. So, yeah, I mean,
Harry, I wanted to say this for a long time. Long-time listener, first-time caller, and you do great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks for coming on, Glenn. And we'll speak to you again in the near future.
Okie doke. Bye-bye.
All the best, mate. Cheers. That was Glenn, our second New Yorker of the night. Fantastic stuff. Let's get on to our next caller. Bear with me a second because I almost had it and then I messed it up when Glenn was on the line. Here we go. Let's dial up our next caller. Love this tone. Absolutely. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner, mate. Introduce yourself. How are you?
Hi, my name is Dhruv, and I'm calling all the way from India.
Welcome, Dhruv. Welcome to the show, mate. Absolute pleasure to have you on. What are your thoughts on Arsenal this season? What do you want to say?
I just wanted to add about this whole topic of conversation that you guys are having about Emery.
Yep.
And I think it is like a shaky first season, but I would say if you look at our performances against the top teams, I think we have improved considerably. And I think under Arsene Wenger, that was one of his biggest criticism, that he would never be able to, change their tactics and, basically change the style of play. But I feel with Emery, we can obviously achieve that. And I think in the long run, I would say if you have to win your Champions League, your FA Cups, I think that is something very crucial. And if we have a valid investment in our team, I think we can actually improve next season. But I'm not really sure if we are getting any investment. That's another issue, yeah.
Interesting, mate. What do you think about it? What areas do you think we need to invest in? It's quite clear, isn't it, that we've got some real problems in the squad. There are some positions that need addressing. If you were the man with the checkbook, what would you be looking to do this summer?
I think more than signing players, I think we need to get rid of the deadwood. I think, I would say,
who is the deadwood to you, mate? Who would you say is the deadwood?
I would say in defense we have Monreal, Mustafi, and I think someone earlier told about Kolasinac, and I actually agree with him because you can't have a defender who knows only how to attack, and when it's his turn to defend, he would probably struggle. I feel he's someone who is good enough for a 5th place team, and I really think we need to build upon him. And I know we can't get rid of all the players at once, but I think I would start off with Mustafi, probably Monreal, and then in midfield I would probably go with Xhaka. He games, but we already have enough inconsistent players for us to carry forward a team. I mean, if Aubameyang or Lacazette have an off game, it actually doesn't really show that much. But in any player in the midfield has it, I think it actually shows. So I feel we need ever since Santi Cazorla left our team, I feel we have not got a player who can control that midfield. And I was really hoping Torreira was that kind of player, but I haven't seen that kind of, technical ability from any players so far. I have high hopes for Joe Willock, but I just don't see that technical ability to control the game. And I think that's somewhere we are lacking really bad.
I totally agree with you. And I think I'll go back to my earlier point where I said it's a little bit risky relying on some of these young players to come good. I know it's the way everybody wants to see things done. It's the ideal scenario, isn't it? Bring players from your academy into the first team. But as I said, when a manager's only got 2-3 seasons top to make an impact, and that's how it is in football now, you cannot always wait and hope that somebody develops. And that's kind of the problem. And it's about balancing that and the fact that we don't have the money to go and get the top players in the game. Dhruv, I just wanted to ask you actually, and this is a little bit off topic, but Arsenal have a huge following in India, don't they?
Yeah, massive. I think it's probably Manchester United number one, and it's probably second. It's probably Chelsea or Arsenal, I would say.
Yeah, fantastic. Daruv, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to know that our show is reaching the ears of people so far away, such as yourself. So thank you for joining in.
Yeah. All right. Good night. It's actually 2:00. So.
Oh, wow. You better get yourself to bed, mate. Good night.
All right. Good night. Yeah.
Brilliant. That was Daruv all the way from India. It's 2 a.m. over there, so he better get himself off to bed. Thank you to those of you watching in the live chat. We've come to the end of the show. We've been going for about an hour. Wow, that's absolutely flown by. Before I let you go, guys, please hit that like button. We need as many likes as possible. It really helps in pushing our video, up the rankings. Apologies for the technical hitches. Apologies for my mistakes. That's what happens when you do things live, but we will be running these shows on a weekly basis. We seem to have had a really, really good response so far. If you want to get involved next time, all you need to do is DM us your name and number via Twitter, and we will call you. It's absolutely of no cost to yourself. If you're abroad, then send us your Skype address. We can't make abroad calls, but we can, of course, get you on Skype. And we've done that a few times this evening. So please do let us have your details. Our Chronicles _AFC DMs are open for you to jump on. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I've already gone on about the like button. How about hit the share button as well? And of course, this will be available from tomorrow morning on all the usual podcast platforms, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, etc. Until next time, take care of yourselves, guys, and all the best. And thanks once again for tuning in. Ciao.